Okay, this is the Professor, CBMD PhD, and today's Sunday, October 15th, 2023. It is 1:47 and 43 seconds, AM Eastern Standard Time, and today's video diary, my summary on ecoscience. So let's jump to it here. I would like to begin my ecoscience videography summary by saying it had been an amazing 3 years revisiting this particular study. I had the opportunity to rewrite my perspectives and thoughts on a wide spectrum of topics pertaining to ecoscience on a global scale. I wrote an estimate of 10,000 pages on essays relating to a variety of ecoscience topics throughout my studies in the last 3 years, which included word searches and learning scientific nomenclature in a variety of languages. The book I studied was a bit over 1,600 pages, covering an extensive amount of topics written by a compilation of demographers, scientific researchers, environmentalists, doctors, and scientific investigators from studies throughout the world. At the beginning of my journey throughout the first couple chapters, refreshing my memory of historical studies we learned throughout grade school, such as ancient and modern time earth science and energy sources such as nuclear power, wind generators, hydro turbines, solar power, petroleum, and types of hydro plants to sustain life on Earth. It was interesting to relearn about Earth's resources, agriculture, zeroing in on different countries to rediscover more of how scientists extract and obtain a massive amount of materials for manufacturing. How Earth reacts to humans removing natural materials from the planet and how it creates disturbance and pollution which affects humans, wildlife, and Mother Nature. Research scientists predict that humans will eventually run out of natural resources, eventually destroy our own planet, which will in time put a halt to life on Earth as we suffer a painful crisis, such as food shortages, as our human population increases. The context of this book was written in the 1960s and 1970s as demographers and scientific investigators forecasted this typical behavior about 60 years ago or previous, covering developed countries, less developed countries, to overdeveloped countries. I wrote essays in great detail about how population control was run by government agencies for many generations as governments forcefully created controlled environments. One must note population control can mean many different things. It is the assassination of mankind, which can take many different forms: international politics, healthcare, genetic defects, infertility, world trade, and legal rights. One being misleading media, dumbing down the herd, decreasing IQ for substantial governmental material gain, megalomania, green power, control, and slowly doping up the masses. Much more, purposely shorten life expectancy, endangering species, global resources, stocks, food shortages, inflation, cost of living, tainting farmers' fields, oppression, peer pressure, and repression. The main contributors to population control are things such as birth control, biological warfare, chemical warfare, psychological warfare, drug warfare, human trafficking, environmental warfare, tainted food, crops, synthetic food with GMOs. Microbiologists experimenting with infectious disease, slowly wiping us all out and exterminating human civilization. They used to illegally experiment on farm animals back in the early days of biological warfare. Important examples like governments promoting cigarette smoking back in the early 20th century, drugs, alcohol, and mood-altering substances, and promoting dangerous products which all gamble your health for profits, such as synthetic dyes, plastics, aluminium like pop, and canned good preservatives. Greasy fast foods which shrink blood vessels and arrest oxygen to the brain and body, causing high cholesterol and leading to blood pressure problems. Other forceful pharmaceuticals which are misleading the masses, such as psychotropic drugs, which promote and encourage suicides. Eventually premature cancer, leading to premature death, political inflation, deficit, and human misery, etc., etc. And it was interesting to learn about how our farmers' fields were being tainted by man-made chemicals, such as the major synthetic insecticides and pesticides. such as chlorinated hydrocarbons, organophosphates, carbamates, which include dichlorodiphenyltrichloro, ethane, and benzene hexachloride, all fall into the previous main categories. As international environmental protection agencies started investigating and installing mandates, policies, and protocols to prevent them from entering our ecosystem and damaging the environment or causing humans premature cancer, suffering, shortening lives, and leading to short or long-lived suffering. Many topics regarding carcinogenic materials, such as plastics, that contaminate the ecosystem, called polyfluoroalkyl substances, chemicals that reside in our ecosystem for over 1,000 years. One can go further and say that anthropogenic pollutions back in the early days were much more toxic, causing hazardous and biohazardous waste. Moreover, back in the early 1900s, if a child walked into a farmer's garden and touched a highly toxic insecticide such as tetraethyl pyrophosphate, the chemical can stay dormant inside the child's body for a lengthy amount of time, even a decade, before him or her would be diagnosed with a suffering cancer called hemangiosarcoma. More recently, cellular waste that take modern generations, crippling brain function, developmental problems in children, infertility, and mental health in adults, and much more, cancer. There are also many things interacting with our planet, such as the natural corona of the sun, solar system rotations, global warming, global dimming, global cooling, etc., etc. And furthermore, throughout my writings and predictive perspectives, setting a good example for future generations and sustaining life on Earth, rewriting many different innovations, one being extrapolating human civilizations over galaxies to start the search for habitable planets. As Earth plateaus into turmoil, we can search for alternative solutions by creating increased advanced populations that might be interested in transitioning over to other worlds for much more sophisticated careers in outer space, leaving plenty of room for civilization that want to live and rebuild lasting life on Earth. Much more. I also enjoy learning about cultures, upbringings, educational backgrounds, religion, philosophical views, and creative moral ethics. As I pondered into creative writing on ancient cultures, to aborigines, to neocolonialism, to the nomadic world, migration, foreclosed, paragai, folkland, the forbidden art, like paints, hieroglyphics, and Hawaiian hula dances. That is now known as graffiti to the modern world. For example, oil companies replace dog slave labor, and younger folks immigrate and don't want to follow Aborigine tradition. It was an interesting tour of past, present, and future generations that covers a wide spectrum of historical, generational, and ancestral horrific predictions that make up our planet and the big and bright universe. Overall, my passion into the study of microbiology as a philanthropist, environmental science comes with the territory. We need to start changing old predictable patterns into an environmentally friendly, sustainable lifestyle. Hopefully our planet will grow stronger so future generations will live longer and live the best quality of life possible. My ecoscience summary was written and produced by me, the professor, scientist, philanthropist, writer, mathematician, and teacher of research. And this videography was created for educational purposes only. Hope you enjoyed listening. Until next time, have an awesome day.